This is the Earth. It is alone, singular, unique. There is only one world like it in the entire universe. This is the only Earth that contains intelligent life, the only one that God Almighty visited, and the Homo sapiens species is the only one that has been given the ultimate gift of the breath of life, the only species to possess a living soul. But can there possibly be any other so-called Earths in the known universe? To answer this question, let's examine the definition of an Earth. By an Earth, or more properly an Earth-like world, scientists are seeking to find conditions that we can assume, for reasons that are self-evident, support life. It needs to be a liquid-covered terrestrial world that lies within the Goldilocks zone in orbit around its nearest stellar object, possessing a viable atmosphere. With these conditions, it is reasonable to assume that life would evolve on this planetary object commensurate with the unique conditions found in their environment. So, how many Earths are there in existence? Obviously, we don't have exact numbers, but we can use some well-established estimates provided by scientists who are a whole lot smarter than I am. So, how many Earths do they say there are? This is one Earth. This is 10 Earths. This is 100 Earths. This is 1,000 Earths. As you can see, I've had to greatly reduce the graphics to produce a file size small enough for the PowerPoint program to handle. I've had to do this several times throughout the course of this video production. This is 10,000 Earths. This is 100,000 Earths. As you can see, the graphic size has to be so small that each so-called Earth is a small blur of off-colored pixels. This is 1 million Earths. This is 10 million Earths. This is 100 million Earths. This is 500 million Earths. There are an estimated 500 million Earth-like planets within the Milky Way galaxy. Wrap your tiny, tiny little brains around this statement. Simply inserting the number over the top of this graphic means covering up millions of Earths at the same time. But this is only one galaxy. Using the 500 million estimate as a basis, and the fact that Milky Way is merely an average-sized galaxy within the universe, part of a slightly larger galaxy group, part of a slightly larger galaxy supergroup, one galaxy of an estimated 100 billion galaxies, this means that there are an estimated 50 billion Earths within the known universe. That is a 5 followed by 19 zeros. This is just the known universe. My sheer agnosticism compels me to consider only the known universe. This doesn't count the purely speculative ideas such as multiverses and alternate dimensions. The universe, as we know it, contains an estimated 100 billion galaxies containing 50 billion Earth-type worlds capable of supporting life. The entire theistic argument is that the Earth, our Earth, is singularly unique and the only one containing life. They come up with some fantastic statistics in the truest sense of the term to tell us how unlikely it would be for life to exist as we know it. Therefore, the only explanation is that God did it. This is called the fine-tuning argument that the entire universe exists for the sole purpose of creating conditions for life on Earth. Therefore, Earth is the only world containing such life. No other life exists anywhere else in the universe, a spurious ideology known as solipsism, the idea that we are alone in the universe. Actually, the likelihood of life evolving on a liquid-covered terrestrial planet with a viable atmosphere is nearly 100%. This means that the idea of pure solipsism, the idea of being the only unique life-bearing planet, boasts an estimated likelihood of 1 in 50 billion, versus the likelihood of life existing elsewhere is nearly 100%. Now, this number doesn't quite suffice me. It seems unreasonable to me that all these Earth worlds actually contain life, at least advanced, evolved species. Let's reduce that number by 1 in 1,000. 0.1% of the original number still leaves us with 50 million billion Earth planets contain advanced evolved life. But guess what? That still doesn't suffice me. My entire argument for agnosticism rests on the likelihood of there being some other hyper-intelligent organisms with reasoning capabilities advanced to the point of comprehension of theological philosophy. This is a very specific requirement that even NASA scientists aren't even holding themselves to. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that there is only 1 in 1,000 chance of a life-bearing planet to contain hyper-intelligent species. That still leaves us with 50 million estimated Earths. That is still a 5 followed by 13 zeros. Compare that with the solipsist theology that states the Earth is the only one containing life. If only one other such world exists in the universe, every major religion will be proven false. The likelihood of there being such a world elsewhere in the universe is nearly 100%. We have 50 billion chances to find another hyper-intelligent species elsewhere in the known universe.
We live on a planet, one of 8 in our solar system. We'll miss you, Pluto. These planets orbit a rather unremarkable star. Our star is in a galaxy, one of 500,000 million in the Milky Way. I know, big numbers again, but bear with me. This is the Pinwheel Galaxy in the constellation Ursa Major, a galaxy much like our own. This is the largest and most detailed image of a spiral galaxy ever taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. Every one of these points of light is a star. Every single one. Some are bigger and some are smaller than our Sun, but they're all stars. Many of them have planets orbiting around them. Looking at this image, the idea that the Earth may be the only planet in the entire universe that harbors life appears almost absurd. It seems much more likely that there are many more planets like ours.
Well, that's just the number of Earth planets. Now let's consider the number of different species. Given that our Earth can be seen as an average-sized planet, and given that there are about 7 billion members of the Homo sapiens species, that means that there will be around 350 million billion trillion hyper-intelligent inhabitants in the universe. That's a 35 followed by 28 zeros. This is a number so large that it is literally astronomical. Biological anthropologists, who are far more intelligent than I will ever be, estimated that there have been around 100 to 150 billion Homo sapiens that have been existed throughout the history of our species, but no estimate as far as how many may exist after us in the future. Using the smaller number for the sake of easy math, that gives us a number of 5 billion trillion, or 5 times 10 to the 30th. And this only assumes, based upon our own experience, that there is only one hyper-intelligent species per Earth world. We would also have to consider every member of every hyper-intelligent species that has ever existed or ever will exist throughout the known universe. Given that standard, we might as well call it a Google. Here is why I find the absolute absurdity of the theological teachings of the major monotheistic religion systems. First of all, these religions started with the assumption of empiricism, or the idea of a flat earth with hell below it and heaven above it. Since this has been conclusively disproven by modern science, religions had to alter their dogmas to state that hell is within the sphere of the earth, say within the mantle or the molten outer core of the earth. But where does that leave heaven? Is it around the earth? Or is it around the universe? Or does heaven exist in some alternate dimension? Is there a separate heaven and hell for every earth planet in the universe, or is our version of heaven and hell the only one in existence? Now, if the version of heaven and hell that the religions teach us is the only system in existence, then this means that the one Google of hyper-intelligent organisms in existence in the universe will all have to be sent to the hell that exists below our Earth, because they don't believe in Todd. This Todd sent his only begotten Son to die on a cross on this earth. No, wait, this Earth. I'm sorry, I accidentally pointed to the other Earth-like planet in the solar system next to us. Now, if this is true, even in light of such overwhelming reasoning that show that it is not, then this leaves us with at least two possible conditions for the existence of Todd, even if we completely discount absolute atheism. For as our understanding of the universe gets bigger and bigger, then our tiny little world then gets smaller and smaller by comparison. We are riding an absolutely infinitesimal speck of dust, circling around a slightly larger speck of dust, caught in an orbit with billions of other specks of dust, of varying sizes that comprise an almost invisible speck of dust, which, alongside 100 billion other almost visible specks of dust, comprise a known universe. This is the conundrum. Now, if Todd really is a racialist, nationalistic, bigoted deity of a certain proportion of the human race, in other words, not even the Todd of the entire Earth, then he is a relatively weak deity and not even powerful enough to have control over the entire universe. If this is true, then we have no need to fear such a character. He is not worthy of our worship, our praise, our adoration. This version of Todd has no more significance in the universe than our world itself. If, on the other extreme, we consider a larger cosmic pantheistic deity, then there is no reason to suggest that our Earth has any special significance in the universe. If anything, such a deity will have as much concern for our affairs as the 50 billion other worlds and the Google of other souls in the universe. Another concern is the charge of nihilism, the idea that life, the universe, and everything is all completely worthless and devoid of ultimate meaning. Theists make the claim that without a belief in Todd, life would be completely meaningless. The problem with this is that, given the knowledge of what actually exists in the universe, with the 500 million Earths cohabiting our galaxies and the 100 billion galaxies cohabiting our universe, the charge then falls to the theists, who see no reason or concern for the existence of anything that cannot be seen or experienced from the vantage point of their own little world. Even those ardent atheists, and particularly the theistic agnostics, stand in awe of the universe and all that it contains, even if they have yet to learn the philosophical reason for its existence. Another issue is that of morality. In this theistic view, there would not be any reason to live good, moral, or ethical lives without the constant threat of everlasting punishment in hell or the bribe of everlasting reward in heaven. In other words, without heaven and hell, there is no reason to be moral. And atheists would have it worse, since the theists claim that ultimate morality can only come from Todd. Fair enough, let's examine the morality of Todd according to the prevalent view of the major monotheistic religions. Theists, according to their scriptures, are not only suggested, but in fact commanded to engage in epic acts of mass murder, genocide, ethnic cleansing, slavery, misogyny, rape, child molestation, and animal cruelty, to include paganistic sacrifices. Even if we remove or ignore these passages of Scripture out of concern that they are outdated and inapplicable in modern religious observances, which Richard Dawkins suggests would countermand approximately 75% of the entire Bible, we are still left with a hollow shell of a religion that is completely indistinguishable from other religious traditions. This hollow shell would consist of simplistic, nearly universal moral statements. This leaves us with Christopher Hitchens' morality challenge as promulgated in his book Todd is Not Great. He asks theists to show him one singular moral teaching that cannot have been taught by a secular moral philosopher.
I am born under a celestial dictatorship which I could not have had any hand in choosing. I don't put myself under its government. I am told that it can watch me while I sleep. I'm told that it can convict me of, here's the definition of totalitarianism, thought crime. For what I think, I may be convicted and condemned. And that if I commit a right action, it's only to evade this punishment. And if I commit a wrong action, I'm going to be caught up not just with punishment in life, but even after I'm dead. In the Old Testament, gruesome as it is, recommending as it is of genocide, racism, tribalism, slavery, the displacement and destruction of others. Terrible as the Old Testament gods are, they don't promise to punish the dead. There's no talk of torturing you after the earth has closed over the Amalekites. Only till when gentle Jesus, meek and mild, makes his appearance, are those who won't accept the message told they must depart into everlasting fire. Is this morality? Is this ethics? I submit, not only is it not only does it come with the false promise of vicarious redemption, but it is the origin of the totalitarian principle which has been such a burden and shame to our species for so long.
This is what I see to be the great downfall of organized religion. A theologically based moral philosophy is predicated on the idea that all morality comes from their particular deity. Even if the moral lessons drawn from that deity make no sense, they are arbitrary, contradictory, and discriminatory in nature. These moral lessons must be adhered to on punishment of absolute and inexpressible, eternal and unjust torment and torture, or on the promise of absolute and inextricable, eternal and unjust delight and undeserved reward. And also consider that all of this is based solely upon belief. The most evil, vile, immoral, and unethical person will be granted access to eternal reward in heaven because he happened to believe in the correct deity. At the same time, the most moral and ethical person spending his whole life on earth in a constant effort to show love and compassion and concern for his fellow cohabitants on his earth will be tortured and tormented for all of eternity because he didn't believe in the correct deity. Does this really make sense to you? Is mere belief the ultimate morality, with murder and rape being slightly antisocial behavior? To quote Christopher Hitchens yet again, it is not only not possible to believe, it's not even decent to believe. The idea of Messiah is also utterly impossible and indecent to believe. Consider this ideology, which is actually followed by many religious people. The best moral act that we can engage in is to destroy the earth and everything on it, knowing that our Messiah will show up at the last second and miraculously save the entire world. Destroy the whole world in order to force the Messiah to appear. But here's the problem. There is no Messiah. There is no ultimate deified hero who is going to fly down to earth to save us from ourselves. And even if there was such a deity, it's absurd to consider that such a deity would reward the very people who caused such massive death and destruction in the first place. On the opposite end of the scale, let's consider the possibility of the cosmic pantheistic deity. If such an entity exists, it would be certain that all worlds in existence, or at least a small number of the 50 billion that may contain life, would be weighed equally and by the same standards. How would the inhabitants of these worlds live their lives? These questions, of course, we cannot answer. We just don't know. That, in and of itself, is the very definition of agnosticism, the lack of knowledge. But taking a completely anthropological, etic viewpoint of our manners and behaviors, I can almost say that the Homo sapiens species is a complete failure. If a deity exists, and it is in fact omniscient and omnipotent and omnibenevolent, the three attributes that we normally assign to an almighty God, then we should live in fear that when we consider how our species behaves. We live wasteful lives, engaging in war, genocide, hatred, and intolerance. We kill members of our fellow species for such ludicrous reasons as believing in the wrong deity, or being the wrong gender, or having the wrong amount of melanin in their skin. We lie, cheat, steal, waste our precious resources, and destroy our environment. We have knowledge and possession of an incredible ability to learn and gain more knowledge, and yet we are willfully ignorant, meanwhile we are unwilling to allow others to gain knowledge of their own. But fear not, you may engage in all of these and other clearly immoral and unethical actions, so long as you believe in the correct deity. Which deity? Why, your deity, of course. Never, ever, ever consider the very disturbing possibility that your deity does not actually exist, and that you are worshiping the wrong deity for the wrong reasons and engaging in the wrong actions, all the while the real Todd actually exists and views all of these things with ever-growing anger with all organisms with the exception of the atheists, agnostics, and secularists and skeptics, who spend their entire lives in a constant effort to engage in acts of love, compassion, and concern for our fellow co-inhabitants.
Surely it says love.
No, WOW, with an Earth W. Behold!
This concept of love confuses and infuriates us!
I call upon my fellow cohabitant species members to make a better change in our lives. We need to live better, more moral, and more ethical lives. We need to make a more concerted effort to live our lives in accordance with clear philosophical principles, admitting that either theological or secular ideology would suffice to lead people to better morality and ethics, and make a more positive and lasting impact on the lives of others. We need to start taking better care of ourselves, our fellow creatures, and the world around us. Though there may be 50 billion other worlds in the universe, this does not change the fact that this world, and only this one, is available to us for our use. 500 million other worlds cohabiting our galaxy does not change the fact that we cannot reach them, cannot contact them, cannot share their resources, ideas, or technologies. Agnostically speaking, we do not know what else is out there around us. The only thing we know for certain is about the Earth as we experience it right now. This is who we are. This is where we live. This may be a tiny, nondescript, infinitesimal speck of dust, but it is ours. This pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan said, is the only home we have ever known.
Nay.
Hell nay.
The horse says, doctorate denied.